Hey there, this is Patrick from Dallas Hockey Hangout, coming to you after a 6-2 Stars win over the Boston Bruins. I have no choice but to make this one quicker today. Don't have as much time, but probably you guys would be happy to hear that I'm a little more succinct with my thoughts. Yeah, Dallas needed this one in the worst way. They needed a start to finish 60-minute win. And for the most part, they got that. It's tough that they gave up those 2 goals at the end. So, we'll start off with how should we view this team? And this team was a 3-game losing streak, lost 10 of their last 12, haven't looked good largely the past 15 to 20 games. And, it's starting to be a little bit of a trend. And so the fact that they were able to get there and get themselves off the schneid and against a good team was a great, start in the right direction. So, impressive win. We'll kind of get into it. I'll break down a few goals, but at the top of my head is what Golitzin said after the game, and which is, it's nice to know I'm feeling the same way that he's feeling about the team, and that when the team is not playing well, he's not getting too low because obviously, they're not as bad as their recent play. But that said, now that the Stars get a big win, some coaches would have been like, cheerleaders, hey, we played great, blah, blah, blah. And Golitzin was pretty tempered after the game. I thought that, obviously he knows it's a great win, but hey, one great win and then a few losses is, not a recipe for success. And he knows that, he even mentioned it specifically, the win against LA and the win against Washington, like they're good wins. But then when you follow them up with inconsistent performances, offensively, defensively, goaltending, special teams, then, it's, hey, this win doesn't really mean much. So I think this win can mean something if they back it up in these next few games. We'll talk about the upcoming schedule here. But, that said, Columbus, St. Louis, I believe it's back-to-back against St. Louis. But, those are teams that while Dallas does struggle against, the Blues, they traditionally play in these really low-scoring games that haven't exactly gone their way. They've already lost to them once this year, 3-1 during their first 4-game losing streak. So, yeah, it's not going to be easy, but we'll touch on that in a bit. But I really think that as great as this win was, it's like, hey, let's, continue to see this team play. For me, it start with play good defense. And, they did that against Boston. Boston's a pretty good team. Let's not forget that they're technically in a wild card right now, but, they've been playing they're 8-2 in their last 10, playing some good hockey. Dallas made them look a little pedestrian today. They were really good defensively, sticks in lanes, but really, if you've been watching this team the past several games, then you know that the Stars have really struggled to get offensive looks consistently that are constantly putting the team on its heels. And, you can just look at the shot count. They had, almost 30 shots by the end of the second period against the Bruins, and you're up 4-0. I don't think that's a coincidence. Now, it doesn't always work that way. There are going to be games in which they pepper the opposing goaltender and they're not going to get any goals. And then you might be saying, well, what goes it to shoot the puck from the outside or whatever? But I do think that that's my takeaway, or what I hope the Stars' takeaway is from this game, is that they, wire the puck on net a little bit more. It's not like they were, throwing beach balls from the point and, Swayman's just eating them up. Like all the shots were shooting to score, shooting to cause chaos. So I definitely like that. But I definitely think Dallas gets caught up trying to make the pretty play too often, and they don't get the benefit of those, chaos plays and them able to use their reaction time and hockey IQ to be in the right place and, rebounds are being spit out at all over the place. The puck is slightly deflecting off someone and going right to another player. Like, how many goals have you seen against the Stars this year? And so, it's a little bit make your own puck luck to a certain degree. So, largely they're shooting the puck and they need to keep that going. I think it was interesting that, there was no Moose today. It's obviously, or should I say, yesterday was no Moose on Tuesday, and he was sick before the game, and arguably one of the Stars' top playmakers as far as playmaking ability. It is interesting that Dallas is a little bit more straight ahead. Now, it helps to be straight ahead when you start off on a 2-0 lead in the first period, both off power play goals. So we'll just get into it. Wyatt's goal. Interesting how the pass seemed to go through the entire, four players of the Bruins, whatever you want to call that trapezoid they're playing, and yeah, Wyatt finds himself alone all again. That it seems like you should want to cover him. Like, seriously, maybe consider putting a couple sticks on him, a guy and another defender stick who's ready to be there. But he's so fast and wiry and smart. He's if you see where he took that shot from, he doesn't take a ton of, especially one-timers, but shots closer to the left dot. He's typically right there in the slot, at least on the power play. So it's pretty good to see him get a quick one-timer off and that pass get through and Dallas get off to, wasn't the start they had against Tampa and that they didn't score right away, but largely their first period was one of the best of the year. You get 2 power play goals. I think it had been a hot minute. I want to say over a month that perhaps even more, that they'd scored 2 power play goals in a game. At the very least, it's been a couple weeks. And, if Dallas is getting multiple power play goals a game, like, look out, you're in trouble. So there's a pretty good sense of relaxation after the first, up 2-0. The Maverick Borg goal, man, I mean, I do really like Mav's game lately. It's similar to Ritzkovian's game. These guys are getting to the net, and they're young guys and trying to, they've done it in the AHL, but, it's time to take those skills and do it against grown men. And I do think that, especially as relative undersized players, there's been a bit of an adjustment process for them, maybe more so Bork than Ritzkovian. But, I mean, Bork, what a save by Swayman to get it with the paddle, and then awesome of Bork to just stick with the play and, continue to pound away at it. And he gets a big goal before the end of the period. Dallas gets another one at the end of the second. And those goals at the end and the beginning of the period feel like they've been happening to the Stars a lot lately. So it's good to see that they're doing that to other teams, and coincidentally, that's leading to wins. I think, I'm going to be paying really, really close attention to that as the season goes by, just about how many goals are scored. I mean, it seems like anytime it happens, the team that's getting that is going to win the game. They're just such deflators, either headed into the locker room or you've come out of the locker room with all this gusto and renewed energy and focus, and then give up one in the first minute, deflating. I know Dallas has been there a few times in which, they're trying to get back in a game and they either give one up late or early in a period, and that's it. That's all she wrote. Because Dallas can come back, but when they seem to give those up, it's tough. You get the gritty, if you can call a power play goal gritty, goal by Bork, and it's 2-0, and then in the American Airlines Center, it was pretty good crowd. That said, call my own foul here. The Essa goal, I missed that one. I was, just looking on my phone. They're just coming back from break, or, something in between puck drops. And then, immediately they drop the puck. Essa wires it from the point and scores. And so, Dallas, it did what it needed to do, which is, hey, like, win face-offs, get pucks on net, it's just really important that Dallas continues to shoot the puck. I mean, look, that's just such a goal representative of what they haven't been getting the past several weeks, which is like that, not random goal, but like that, maybe it came a little easier than some of the other goals. So, Miro gets another assist, his second one, and then Rizkovian gets another assist, his second one by that point. And then, man, really puts the icing on the cake with his goal late in the second. And that's it was a little hard to see why precisely. I knew that they were reviewing it because they couldn't quite tell if it went in or not, but certainly did not totally put it together. They were also seeing if he kicked it in, but he angles it. I don't think it would have been kicking anyways. It would have been really interesting to see how that panned out, but yeah, it goes off the Boston defender and in, and you can't quite see if it kind of goes in, the black puck on the black pads, and finally you can kind of see it squirt across it. I mean, honestly, I always trust the player who's behind there, and you can see Rizkovian, celebrate right away. Now, you get false celebrations, sure, but I feel like 9 times out of 10, if a player's celebrating right there looking at it, he typically knows if the goal went in or not. He doesn't want to make himself look like a fool celebrating if the goal didn't go in. So I had a lot of confidence that was a goal based on his reaction. They uphold it, and then now the Stars are looking at a 4-0 lead after 2 periods, and how long has it been since Dallas has been in that much control? It's been a while. So, and then, they could have taken their foot off the pedal. They are, I do feel like, still defensive minded overall. So it was important to see that they kept at it. Now, yeah, I mean, Robertson, just, what can you say about the guy? I mean, his sniped goal, impressive. And, the other goal he had, I mean, is just, he's so unassuming that I do think that, he will launch into the 3 stars here in a second. I mean, make a case that while it came later in the game that he had the most juice going tonight. Yeah, it's a good combo. It's a good question between him, Robertson, or Rizkovian. So, just based off time, we'll launch into that. 3 stars. I'm going to give it to Rizkovian just because his goal at the end, Dallas needing to see a little bit more from the 4th line and the 3rd line. Those depth lines haven't really, largely in this past downstretch, they just haven't been contributing as much as Dallas needs them to. It was good to see that, start against Tampa, and had a good start to the game against Tampa and just couldn't finish it off. But yeah, another great, you get a Rizkovian goal and he gets 2 assists. I'm going to give it to him, and then we'll give Robertson 2nd star. And then, yeah, I mean, this is a common conversation internally for me is, does Ottinger make it given how, largely they were dominating? So did they really need him tonight? I don't know. Normally I always make a case for Ottinger and the goalie, especially if they win. But, today I'm going to go with Miro, 3 assists, and he seems to be finding his game pretty well. I think that when you can see that when Miro's out on the ice, oftentimes he's the best player. And yeah, I mean, without being too headliney today, who do you think the Stars' best player is? Like right now, gun to your head, because gun to my head, I still think it's Miro Heiskanen, just based off of how important he is to the defense, how great his skating is, his zone exits, his passing. I mean, great shot. I mean, what else could you need from a player? So that's 3 stars. Just wanted to note quickly on the Swayman-Ottinger matchup. I thought that was interesting that they're meeting each other, and that sort of being, hey, who's Team USA going to go with? And, I can imagine if you're a Swayman fan and a Bruins fan that you are probably saying, much like the Stars have probably said several times this year, is that game was not representative of Swayman. I mean, he can play better than that. That said, it was a tough man. That's a tough way to go out. To be pulled after that last goal that he gets sniped on, and then they pull him midway through the third. Like, man, at this point, don't you just want him to ride it all the way out? I don't know. I just felt like, was that a mercy pull? A lot of goalies probably want to stay in right there, but I can't imagine he was happy about being pulled. And then also, it is kind of comical how he has to sit kind of in the crowd after. It's still, I mean, can he not just stay in the locker room? It's all very fascinating how that works. Like, hey, you've played terribly, and then you have to come out and sit next to the opposing fans and have to, be a part of their goal celebrations. Thankfully for him, they didn't score any others. But yeah, I mean, Swayman, Anger's numbers are pretty similar on the season. Swayman's goals against 288, save percentage 903. Anger's save percentage 902, goals against 267. Dallas played better as a team. And this is just one of those games that I'm not sure you could really evaluate either goalie super, super closely because it was such a lopsided score. Pretty interesting to see that matchup, and also, didn't see the national broadcast. Pretty interested to watch that back and hear some of the conversation around it. And so one area of the pod I want to start putting in is just news and notes from around the league. The only one that's at least on my brain is Rasmus Anderson being traded to Vegas. And that's classic Vegas, right? They always seem to swing for the fences. I thought it was really interesting that this was done as early as it was. I mean, Calgary's known that they wanted to trade Anderson for probably since last season. So I thought it was pretty interesting to see how quickly they got that deal done. But that said, I was a little disappointed because I know Dallas was at least in on the idea of trading for him. And I really wanted to see Dallas get that done. Now, I was struggling to make sense of what the real price was for him. So I'll look at that and get back to you guys. Just about whether or not I truly felt like Vegas was mortgaging any of their future to do this, because I mean, they do the same with lots of players and bring them in with big, like, Hurdle is brought in and signed to a big deal. And they just, I think Pietrangelo is kind of similar. And that Vegas just always finds a way to just bring in these big, notable guys around the league and just fold them in and then them be right there. So Vegas is already a really good team this year. So that was big. I feel like that vaulted them up into the conversation in the West again, along with Edmonton and, Minnesota, Dallas, and Colorado. So I wouldn't write off any of the other West teams as well. So that said, we'll just go to the upcoming schedule here. And, Columbus isn't exactly sexy team when it comes to, hey, you want to tune in, but I'm excited to tune in and see Rick Bowness take over for head coach with Columbus. They're not playing terribly. They're 5-4-1 in their past 10, but they're second from the bottom in the Eastern Conference. So Bowness will get them playing defense and get them to buy in and care about each other. It'd be interesting to see, typically in the NHL, when you make a coaching move, it typically does some stuff. It works. Oftentimes it's just a different message the players need to hear, different attitude, different mindset that they have found themselves in. Hey, they've fired our coach. Maybe I need to play better or I'll get traded. I mean, there's a lot of auxiliary trickle down effect that can cause a lot of motivation there. So excited to see, excuse me, excited to see how Columbus fares under Bowness. And, then they got the 2 games against the Blues coming up. I will say, doing a little bit of research on Columbus, it's Werenski, the defenseman, is leading the team in goals. So that's pretty rare. And then it's like everyone else. So feels like if I was doing a scouting report for the Stars, it would be, hey, cover that guy. Seems pretty good. Kind of seems like how people should be looking at Wyatt Johnston right now. I mean, how many power play goals do you need to see him score before you load up on him? That's just me. Happy that the league hasn't quite figured it out. He's on his way to breaking a Stars record with power play goals, which is crazy. So, yeah, we'll leave it there. Stars win 6-2 over the Bruins. Good complete game. Have to see that backed up over these next few games, especially against some of the lower competition. Against Columbus, St. Louis twice, they got to win 2 of those 3 games. So we'll re-rack and do this again soon. So if you guys have any questions, at Patrick Hayslip on Twitter, DallasHockeyHangout@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. Bye.